Just one more time, said every researcher ever. I'm sure y'all are familiar with the scientific method of observation, question, research, hypothesis, experimentation, analysis, and then conclusion and slash or sharing. The foundation for all things science. But there's one step that prolongs this process, not just for a couple hours, days, or even months, but years. Sometimes the experimental phase can take over a decade. The patience and dedication of these scientists is something I wish I possessed. I mean, if I have to wait more than 3 days for my Amazon package, yeah, it's over. For me, this long waiting period seems impossible, and I'm sure many of those scientists spending years of their life researching one attribute wish they could get some back. Look no further because they're a solution that is rising its way into the realm of research. It's called quantum computing. It's Agent RX, and welcome back to the next episode of The Next Prescription. In today's episode, we are going to learn about a life changing technology that isn't just changing the biological world, but the entire technological world. We're going to learn about the innovation of quantum computing and apply it to the biological world by learning about its effects on drug development. This is going to be a bit of a hard concept, but nothing we can't handle. We'll take it step by first learning about what quantum technologies even are. Then, we will shift our focus on how we discover drugs currently. We will explore how quantum computing works with drug discovery. And then we will explore the limitations of quantum computing and drug development. So, what is quantum computing? Quantum computing is an application of quantum physics, basically integrating that concept into a computer. Okay, next section. Yeah, that was a terrible explanation. Let's start by understanding what quantum physics is. Quantum physics is the study of the tiniest layer of particles in the universe and how they behave. It attempts to understand the behavior of tiny particles, including atoms, electrons, and photons, so then their movements can be predicted. These particles have their own way of existing, very different from ours, that it makes it insanely difficult for us to understand. Let's start with one of quantum physics' most famous principles, superposition. This principle states how a particle can be at two different stages at once. Think of a light switch. It is either on or off. The concept of superposition states that the light switch can be on and off at the same time. For humans, we could describe this as having our abilities to walk and run. But with superposition, we could be walking and running at the same time. Just try imagining that. I, for one, can't. If this principle is still confusing, then let's look at the most famous thought experiment that explains superposition, Schrodinger's box. In this thought experiment, Erwin Schrödinger said if you put a cat in a box with a random mechanism that will deploy poison into it, you'll never know if the cat is dead or alive. Schrödinger claimed that the cat can be considered both dead and alive until the box is opened. It tries to demonstrate how the cat is in two stages at once, dead and alive, like superposition states. However, many other quantum physicists disagree with this idea, since the cat must be either dead or alive. It is never technically both at the same time, which is what superposition claims. There are a lot of other ideas to study of quantum physics, but for our purposes, this is the main one. If you want to learn more about it, let me know in the comments. Should I make an entire episode on just quantum physics? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's shift our way to the applications of quantum physics, one of which is quantum computing. Quantum computing uses the principle of superposition as its basic functionality. Let's first take a quick tangent and understand a very basic principle of computers. Everything on your computer must be stored, from each pixel on the screen, each letter you type, to even this very audio you're hearing. It all must be stored somewhere. All of these types of data are represented as bits. Bits resemble either a 1 or 0, and thousands upon thousands of these create all the things on your computer. All bits are stored in what is called a transistor. A transistor is a tiny microscopic switch that has two stages, on or off, 1 or 0. So everything is stored as ones and zeros on traditional computers. But how do quantum computers do it? Quantum computers apply the principle of superposition. Instead of transistors that store all the data, they use qubits. Qubits are subatomic particles such as electrons or photons. What makes these particles unique is that they don't have to behave like transistors. I mean, nature isn't black or white, so its particles wouldn't be either. Qubits are able to exist in different forms that are described by superposition. They are like transistors in the sense that they are still based off of the numbers 1 and 0, but they don't have to just be one or the other. They can be both at the same time. This is massive in the technological community because the ability to be multiple forms at once allows for calculations to be performed at much higher speeds. Calculations that were deemed unsolvable by the best supercomputers can now be calculated in a matter of minutes. And that concludes our crash course on quantum computing. Before we can understand how quantum computing is affecting drug discovery, I think it'd be nice to understand how we discover drugs currently in the US. This consists of 5 main steps. Step 1, discovery and development, where the whole process begins. Researchers will explore a new disease and look at how it interacts and affects the body. As they're understanding this, they're simultaneously trying to figure out how they can treat it, whether that be removing the disease or preventing it from spreading. Once they have an idea, researchers will conduct experiments and research so they can see the therapy that might work and develop an actual drug. Okay, drug develop. Now let's get into the quantum computing and how it affects it. If only it were that easy. We've just scratched the surface of this journey. Next up is step 2, preclinical research. This is when the drug is tested in laboratories and animals. It lays the groundwork for human clinical trials by checking if the drug is safe in humans. Here, researchers develop the proper dosage amounts and the target patients, the ones that would benefit most from this drug. Once the drug feels ready for humans, the clinical trials are commenced. There are 3 phases. Phase 1, the riskiest phase, where it pushes the dosage of the drugs before creating harmful side effects. The sample size is between 20 to 100 individuals. Although it is the riskiest, most drugs are able to pass it. Phase 2. This phase determines the effectiveness of the drug by answering, does the drug cure the disease? It requires anywhere from 100 to 300 individuals and can last up to 2 years. Phase 3. The last phase of clinical testing, in which the sample size is increased by a large margin. It is building upon the developments from phase 1 and 2, which are the drug's effectiveness and safety. The drug is administered to thousands of individuals, and the large sample size gives researchers the most important information. It gives insight into what labeling and packaging the drug should have, if the drug gets approval by the FDA, that is, which is the Food and Drug Administration. Out of all the drugs that make it to this stage, only about 30% pass to get approval. Step 4, FDA drug review. This is where the approval comes into play. All the years of hard work come down to this step. Typically, a new drug application, NDA, is submitted to the FDA. The FDA will review steps 2 and 3, preclinical and clinical trials, of the drug development process. If they require more information, they will seek it from specific doctors or patients involved in the process. If the FDA sees the drug does more benefit than harm, they will approve it and pass it on to step 5. Step 5. Post-marketing safety monitoring. Here, the drug is monitored by the FDA in order to look for any safety issues or any rising health concerns from the drug. They ensure the drug stays safe by making regular visits to the drug development facilities and allow for patients to give safety concerns. If a safety issue arises, the FDA can remove the drug from the market or require the manufacturer to change their labels to be more accurate. Now, we can get into how quantum computing will change drug development for the good and bad. As we looked over the complex process to create a drug, I think it is safe to assume that it is not a short process. The development time for a drug to make its way to the market from idea to launch is over a decade, typically 12 to 15 years. A large portion of that comes from the development phase. A drug is a tiny molecule that interacts with proteins in our bodies in order to return them to a healthy state. Proteins seem like simple molecules, but they hold the key to finding the right treatment. During the development phase, it is found where the drug can bind to the protein that in that disease or sickness. However, there isn't just one single site. There are multiple of them. Along with multiple sites, there are billions, even trillions of molecules that researchers must account for. This is to ensure that a diverse array of molecules are covered in order to find the best solution. There are so many different scenarios that the drug must account for. All these molecules are stored in what is known as the library. When the number gets that high, it starts to exceed anything we could do for certain, but even the minds of traditional computers. This is where quantum computing comes into play. Quantum computers are effectively able to simulate the molecular interactions between protein and drug. They are able to predict the effect of all the molecules in the library on a standard body, one that is ideal. And quantum computers can select which compound has a higher chance of success than others faster than ever. This is done by evaluating the bonding properties of the molecules in different scenarios and picking the best. A process humans would have to test individually and computers would get overwhelmed with. The human testing of all these molecules is estimated to cost millions of dollars, and quantum computing is able to significantly decrease that hefty price tag. And the process typically takes well over a year without any quantum computing, but with it, it is cut down to just over a month. Researchers no longer have to spend as much time nor money in order to develop the same quality of drug. Unfortunately, with everything good, a bad must always follow, and quantum computing is no different. Even though it can save immense time and money, qubits must exist in a very specific controlled environment. This makes them incredibly fragile. Even a tiny disturbance can lead to a grave consequence, such as a calculation error. In drug development, for instance, a single undetected error could result in the passing of a molecule in the library that actually fails to cure the disease, or worse, harms a patient during clinical testing. Some of the factors that can cause an error in a qubit are the changes in temperature, tiny vibrations, or even the faint noise of a dropping penny. Because of this, the environment surrounding these qubits must be perfectly controlled. If this environment is even slightly disturbed, decoherence occurs. This is when qubits' fragile quantum information leaks out and becomes scrambled by the surrounding environment, causing the qubit to lose its special quantum properties and behave like a standard computer transistor instead. These errors are much harder to solve than those in a traditional transistor. When decoherence occurs, it requires immense technical skill to address the resulting data loss. While researchers have developed methods like the Shor code to help correct these errors, implementing these measures remains incredibly costly in both time and money. Quantum computing has brought a lot of promise to the world of drug development, but it doesn't come without its fair share of concerns. The mistake of a single qubit could be fatal to the lives of many if it allows a harmful molecule to pass into the drug. Yet, the time savings of quantum computing can't be forgotten either. It can shave off years from the drug development process, which can allow for an increase of drugs that help more people. It allows for more personalized drugs to enter the market of our pharmacies. This technology has got me into a superposition of my own. The benefits are certainly grand, but the risk of any life, even if it is just one, is still a large burden. In this episode, we learned what quantum computing is and how we discovered drugs. Then, we took a turn and combined both of those into one concept, which is quantum computing and drug discovery. We learned what that means and some of its limitations. There was so much more with this technology, even just quantum mechanics. Let me know in the comments if you'd like another episode focused solely on quantum mechanics or even another technology that is used for it. Thank you for tuning in to the next prescription. And until next time, this is Agent RX signing out.